As you guys know, there have been plenty of Gojo revival theories out there, and there's also been a bunch of videos about chances that Gojo will come back, symbolisms that these YouTubers, Twitter users, and TikTokers have seen that they believe leads to the conclusion that Gojo would return. And I've seen all of those same things, the whole Gojo one eye thing, but I wasn't really convinced by all of those arguments. I didn't think they were really good arguments for a Gojo revival. And even now, I don't think that those old arguments about a Gojo revival are valid. Rather, I think that there are some new things that have been released that hint towards a Gojo revival. And although I don't think that these recent discoveries are concrete proof that Gojo will come back, I would definitely say that if Gojo were to come back, the things that I am about to tell you were hints that Gojo would be coming back all along. So just remember, if you are a big Gojo fan, don't get your hopes up too much, but I would say get your hopes up a little bit, because the things that I'm going to tell you definitely are purposefully put here to make us question whether Gojo would be coming back or not. And I think that these pieces of evidence are good enough to where if somebody said that they believe Gojo would be returning based on these pieces of evidence, you wouldn't call them crazy. So first, we should start off with the most recent piece of evidence, because a couple days ago we saw that the Shonen Jump channel themselves hosted an 11.5-hour live stream about Gojo's life. Yes, 11.5 hours of a live stream about Gojo's life. It was just a bunch of manga panels that had been changed around a bit to just showcase Gojo's life from when he was born to the airport scene that recently happened to the manga. And funnily enough, even though the stream itself was over 11.5 hours long, the most important part is the last 10 minutes of the live stream. After going over a bunch of different things throughout Gojo's life, like the hidden inventory flashbacks, volume 0 where he was training Maki and Yuta, and then recent times when he was talking to Yuji, Nobara, and Megami, we finally get to the airport scene, which is the last time we saw Gojo. And the difference is, in this airport scene now, the final scene of this video and live stream, Gojo is no longer in the airport. And as a matter of fact, nobody is in the airport in the last 10 minutes of the live stream. And another important thing is, although this stream was over 11 hours long and had music playing the entire time, this final scene of the airport, while it was empty, had no music whatsoever. As we were getting different shots of the airport, there was no music playing, even though music had been playing for the past 11 hours. Now, this airport being empty is very important for one big reason, and before I get into the symbolism of it, I do want to show you the new volume 26 cover where it shows half of Gojo's face, and coincidentally, this half of his face in this cover completely lines up with the other half of his face when he's lying down on the ground. And just remember, I'm not saying that this is concrete evidence that Gojo is coming back, but this is purposely done for sure, where Gojo's face is awakening in this volume 26 cover in the same way that he has died at the end of the Sukuna fight. If Gojo was to wake up or reawaken, Gege has clearly made it on purpose where this volume 26 cover matches up with his death scene. As you can see, on one half we have Gojo dead lying on the ground, and in the other half we have him waking up with the 6 eyes glowing. Now, we'll talk more about this volume cover later, but I just had to bring this up because I wanted to show you this before I talked about the airport symbolism. So let's talk about what it means now that Gojo is no longer in this airport at the end of the stream, and why for some reason there was no music in this final scene of the live stream. To answer this question, we'll have to go to chapter 236, where after Gojo dies, he's talking in this airport to Nanami. And before I tell you the exact words of Gojo and Nanami's conversation, I want you to remember the title of this chapter is Go South. So now that you know that the title of the chapter is Go South, let me tell you what Gojo and Nanami spoke about. Nanami says that one time he asked Mei where he should live, and Mei told him, "If you'd like to become someone new, go north. But if you'd like to return to who you once were, go south." And Nanami says that back then he didn't hesitate in moving south, as he had always been someone who loved looking to the past. And Nanami says that because of this, his final moments weren't so bad. So we see that there's a connection between going north, going south, and your final moments. And we see that after he tells this to Gojo, Gojo says, "Hey principal, I thought you said that no Jujutsu sorcerer dies without regret." And then we see Gojo say that now he's hoping that this isn't a dream. So from Gojo's words, you could be implying that he decided to go south. But let's break down Gojo's words exactly. You see, Gojo sort of mocks the principal by saying, "I thought you said Jujutsu sorcerers were supposed to die with regrets," sort of implying that Gojo's already accepted his fate and that he has not died like a normal Jujutsu sorcerer because he himself is now accepted that he is going to die and has no regrets. And we also see that Gojo says here that he's now hoping that this isn't a dream, which you could also say implies that he is happy with his final moments and no longer cares to get up and fight anymore. He has decided to go south, as the title of the chapter says. But you see, even though these were the words we saw when Gojo was talking to Nanami and it cut back to present day, we don't get to see Gojo's exact final answer on which decision he wants to take, whether he wants to go south or go north. You might say that because these words were the last we heard of him, that means that these were his final thoughts, but I don't think so. You see, we know that Gojo was still sentient and alive shortly after this airport scene while he was lying on the ground cut in half by Sukuna, because we see that after Sukuna was done praising Gojo, Gojo puts a smile on his face, meaning that Gojo still had the capability of hearing and thinking for himself even though he was lying in half cut on the ground. So now that we've established that Gojo still could have been thinking other things past this airport scene, there's also some small symbolism in this airport scene itself that might mean something depending on how you look at it. You see, Gojo and Nanami are facing two different directions as they're sitting across from each other. Nanami says that he decided to go south, and look, he is sitting facing away opposite from Gojo, which means that it is possible that Gojo decides to go north. Now, I'm not saying that because they're sitting back to back, this for sure means that, but it definitely is symbolism that means something depending on what you make of it. Now, here's something to think about. What exactly does it mean for Gojo to go south or go north? Well, first, let's cover the shortest option because this won't need too much explaining. If Gojo chooses south, then he basically just remains dead. This means that he chose to be happy with his ending. He doesn't want to contest his ending in any way as he feels that he has no regrets. So by choosing south, he doesn't want to change who he is. He's happy with what happened and who he was, and that is the end of it. But now let's talk about the interesting part. What does it mean if Gojo decides to go north? As Nanami says, going north means becoming a new person. Now, what I think this means for Gojo is for him to shed who he was completely before his death. And this is what I mean by this. We know that the entire story of Jujutsu Kaisen, Gojo's entire identity was that of being the strongest. We never saw him have to go all out because nobody had ever pushed him to that point before. The last time he had even been on the brink of death was in an inventory, and he had gotten much stronger since then. It seemed like there was no threat that could even oppose Satoru Gojo, and what it meant to be strong in Jujutsu Kaisen was Gojo. And there's so many different lines where Gojo outright says he's the strongest. Being the strongest was Gojo's entire identity. What I think it means for Gojo to become something new, for him to go north, is to completely forget about that title, completely forget about being the strongest, but rather just be who he is, Satoru Gojo. There's been so much identity crisis that has happened with Gojo throughout the series, so much so it would probably take a full video to go into all of it, but just to keep it short, we see it when Gojo is about to get sealed in the prison room, where we see him look into the eye of the prison room and he doesn't see his face back at him. And then remember in volume 0 where Geto says, "Are you Satoru Gojo because you're the strongest, or are you the strongest because you're Satoru Gojo?" And we even saw Gojo in volume 0 ask the principal if he was strong. So, you know, there's just this whole thing in Jujutsu Kaisen about Gojo having this identity crisis. He doesn't really know who he is. He's just always been the strongest and that's it. It's not like the higher ups or the people around him care that much about who he is as a person, but rather they care about his strength. Now, obviously, when I say that, I'm not talking about the main cast who has grown to like Gojo as their sensei. I'm talking about the Jujutsu world itself. Think about it. Yes, we've gotten the POV of the students, But think about what Gojo looks like to the rest of the Jujutsu world. The higher-ups don't care for him. They only care about Gojo's power, which is why they don't even like him and they just give him orders. And that's also why he was probably the one who killed them before he went and fought Sukuna. To the Jujutsu world, Gojo was more of a concept than a person. He was just the concept of the strongest. It didn't really seem like anybody outside of the main cast cared for who he was, so because of this, he had an identity crisis. This is what I think is going on in the airport scene. If Gojo decides to go north, I think that he will decide to shed himself completely of this label of the strongest. I think he will come back and just be who he is, Satoru Gojo. Sort of putting himself not in the challenger shoes for the first time, but in the shoes of a normal person who acts solely for their own purpose, not for the purpose of any higher-ups or anything like that. Now you might be wondering, okay, well, Mir, so what if he has this mental state change? Does that mean that he can just get stronger? Well, yes, I'm not making this up. Look at any time a big mental shift has happened in Jujutsu Kaisen. Huge mental shifts have always led to a difference in strength. I'll just give you a few examples. We know that Toji says at the end of his fight against Gojo that the reason he lost is because he was fighting for the wrong reasons. Another example is we saw that Hanami back in Goodwill said that he was getting stronger because he was having fun while fighting. He changed his mindset about fighting and therefore got stronger. And then we even see in a more recent case that Maki says that she was able to get stronger and become equal to Toji because she had changed her mindset as well. And in case you aren't convinced yet about the mindset being correlated to strength, we just outright have a statement from Sukuna back when he was giving a schooling session to Jogo. He tells him that to become stronger, you have to change your mindset. You have to disregard all others and become something like a calamity. But you see, Jogo didn't have that mindset, so Jogo wasn't able to do it. So if you were to ask me if a mental shift could make Gojo come back stronger, I would 100% say yes, because we have seen plenty of cases of mental shifts making characters stronger, and those were just a few examples I gave you here. There are plenty more examples, but you pretty much get the point by now. So the reasons I've told you so far are the main reasons that Gojo might be coming back, but I will add in this extra reason. This is the other reason that some people thought Gojo would be coming back that I wasn't too convinced of, but I'll just share it anyway for the sake of you knowing it. We know that there's been this constant recurring theme where Gege has been drawing Gojo with one eye ever since he's passed, and this is actually before Gojo passed as well. We see that Gege has kept it up after Gojo passed, but even before Gojo passed away, there's been plenty of times where it would either be in chapter covers or volume covers like the recent, or just different times throughout the manga where Gojo would be pictured with one eye. Also, I just realized I've been saying one eye, but when I'm saying one eye, I'm talking about one eye being shown, not Gojo literally only having one eye. So this led a lot of people to believe that Gojo will be sacrificing one of his eyes in order to come back to life. And, you know, you can think of that what you will. I don't personally buy into that theory, but in case you didn't know about it, now you know. But with that being said, I have now shared all of the reasons that Gojo might be coming back to the Jujutsu Kaisen manga. I hope that this video was informative to you if you did not know some of these things. And if you did find what I've said useful, then please let me know in the comments below. And I just want to thank you so much for reaching the end of the video. And if you enjoyed, then I would really appreciate it if you leave a like and subscribe to the channel, as I do post videos on topics that you guys give me and some that I come up with on my own. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.